Good afternoon, Worldwide Core Radio. How are you today? As always, I pray that you are having a wonderful day wherever you are. It's a beautiful day here in Oklahoma. We are enjoying some sun. It's still kind of chilly outside, but the wind is not blowing 90 to nothing, which is usually what's going on around here. I pray that you are feeling well today, that there is nothing going on, and that you are having a blessed day. No, not too much stress, not too much work, just a good day. That's what I'm praying for you. So I am NeAnne, and this is Healthy Living, or my hashtag is hashtag Healthy Living with NeAnne. This is Healthy Journey. I come on here in the afternoons and share with you about some information that I've learned about how to get healthier in your home, how to make your home a toxic-free haven for your family, remove toxins and poisonous substances from your home so that you don't have to worry about what you're putting in, on, or around your body when you're in your home. We can't always determine what is going to be around us when we leave our home, so at the very least we can make our homes safe for our families, right? That's our hope. So anyway, my name is NeAnne. I have been on my healthy journey for about 11 years now. And I cannot tell you how much information I have learned. It is crazy, the reading that I do. There's always something new to be learned, for sure, when you're trying to get knowledgeable about what's in the products that we use, what's going on with the food that we're eating. What is the government doing about it? You know, there's always something out there to read. So it's pretty amazing, the information that you can find when you're looking for it. Even when you're not looking for it, like my friends and post stuff on Facebook all the time about studies that are being done, and that information is out there for us to see, but a lot of the time we just ignore it, because it's not something that we think we need to know. So what I try to do is share with you the information that you might be ignoring just because it's not convenient at this time. But once you know what's going on around us, it's kind of hard to ignore it, and then you want to know what's going on. So that's what I do, is I just share with you some information that you might find interesting about how you can increase the health and wellness in your home, not just for you, but for your children and the people that visit your home, but even your pets, because we're going to talk a little bit about pets today, because, they rely on us for their food and their welfare. And what we use in our homes also affects them. So we're going to talk a little bit today about that. And I don't know if you keep an eye out on social media or in the news. I did notice a friend of mine had posted the other day that they were recalling Blue Buffalo brand. I should go look and see. Maybe I'll look that up while I'm talking, and we can see what that article was about after we read what we should be looking for in dog food. Because, like I said, our pets rely on us for what we get them. And so what we're feeding them is what is maintaining their health and wellness. A friend of mine posted a picture the other day about how our bodies can regenerate cells in different parts of our bodies and how long it takes, and pretty much what it said is you are what you eat. right? So we are what we eat. So what goes in is what our body has to use to make what our body needs. And so it's the same for our pets. So let me look at this article real quick. So the article was titled Pet Food Lead Alert, Blue Buffalo and Blue Wilderness Dog Food Class Action Lawsuit, written by Dr. Carol Osborne. This was about 6 months ago. So it says, feeding your dog blue buffalo or blue wilderness dog food, wondering why your canine doesn't seem to be doing well. Sadly, despite all their enticing television commercials, another class action lawsuit has been filed against Blue Buffalo pet products. Excuse me. Note that blue wilderness dog foods are also made by Blue Buffalo. In California on June 26, 2017, charges against Blue Buffalo pet products included negligent misrepresentation, violations of the California Consumer Legal Remedies Act, violations of the California False Advertising Law, violations of the California Unfair Competition Law, breach of express warranty, breach of implied warranty, and negligence. This time the lawsuit was filed due to evidence documenting the fact that several of Blue Buffalo's dry dog foods contain toxic levels of lead. Lead-tainted dog foods included Blue Wilderness chicken recipe, blah, blah, blah. The problem, lead in your dog's food. The contaminated dog foods contain toxic levels of lead. Lead is classified as a carcinogen, which means that at certain levels it can lead to cancer. Lead is a toxin that builds up in your dog's body, and over time, as it accumulates, your dog becomes sickened. Dog illnesses that may result from ingesting lead include cancer, reproductive problems, abnormal growth issues, as well as damage to the nervous system and other vital organs. Lead poisoning in dogs occurs when the amount of lead in your dog's blood reaches levels high enough to cause visible signs. Signs of lead poisoning in dogs may include appetite loss, vomiting, diarrhea and/or constipation, jaw chomping, blindness, seizures, muscle spasms, behavior changes, anxiety, circling and/or lack of coordination. Blood work may reveal elevated liver numbers. It is interesting to note that the FDA considers acceptable levels of lead in bottled drinking water to be 5 parts per billion. The 3 Blue Buffalo pet products were documented with lead levels at 20 parts per billion in the Blue Wilderness chicken recipe for small dogs, 140 parts per billion in Blue Freedom grain-free chicken recipe for small dogs, and 840 parts per billion in the Blue Basics grain-free turkey and potato recipe for adult dogs. Therapy to reverse lead toxicity is based on liver detoxification and whole body support. Depending on the severity of your dog's condition, therapy may range from hospitalization and intravenous fluids to supportive care. Natural therapies helpful to detox the liver includes antioxidants, milk thistle, buffered vitamin C, bentonite clay, and turmeric derivatives. Homemade diets high in green leafy vegetables are also beneficial. Buyers beware when you spend your hard-earned dollars on quote-unquote healthy and holistic dog foods. Blue Buffalo and Blue Wilderness dog foods have a 9-year history of being anything but healthy and holistic in this author and veterinarian's experience. And this was written by Dr. Carol Osborne. So that's for the fur babies in your home, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So that was in June of 2017 is when that class action lawsuit was filed. I know, we have 3 dogs, and I try to do my best and try to find the best dog food for them because I don't want them to get sick any more than I want anybody else in our family to get sick. So it is hard to find what we need out there. So, what we're going to talk about today out of The 100-Year Lie, I'll tell you about my experience with this book because about 11 years ago, when I started doing this research for my family, I started reading books. I started doing research. And I had the help of friends from church that had taken me under their wing because we were trying to find a better alternative for our middle son, who had been on medication since he was 18 months old, and he was now about 6 years old. And so I just wanted a better alternative for him. So I had some friends that took us under their wing, started sharing information with me, invited me to join their local organic food co-op, which was so wonderful since I didn't know anything about organic food at the time. Had never even done any research on it. And so that's where my research began. I started with the first book I read was The Maker's Diet by Jordan Rubin, which is a very interesting book, very insightful. He has lots of information to share about his own journey. And that's what got me started. Then one of the next books that I read was called The 100-Year Lie by Randall Fitzgerald. And this is the one that we're going to talk out of today, because he's taking us through myths that we believe, or I'll say, most of us believe, because we just don't take the time, because we're told that the government agencies are there to protect us, right? That's what their job is, but that's not actually what their job is, and that's not actually what they do. So what Randall Fitzgerald talks about is that over the past 100 years, our species has been engaged in a vast and complicated chemistry experiment. Each and every one of us, along with our children, our parents, and our grandparents, have been a guinea pig in this experiment, which uses our bodies, our health, our wealth, and our goodwill to test the proposition that modern science can improve upon the foods and medicines of nature. And so that's just the introduction to his book. So we've talked about chemicals, or some of the chemicals in our food system. We've talked about some of the chemicals in our personal care products that we slather on all day long, especially us ladies. We're probably using more personal care products than the gentlemen in our audience, but just because we use more. We use, makeup and lotions and moisturizers and cleansers and cleaners for the house. We're using more of that typically, and we're exposing ourselves to hundreds upon hundreds of chemicals every day. And nobody tells us that those chemicals haven't been tested. Not only have those chemicals not been tested singly, they haven't been tested to see how they react synergistically with each other as we're applying them, or as we're inhaling them, or as we're swallowing them, or whatever we're doing with them. So that's what we've been talking about, is all of those chemicals and what it looks like in our nation after 100 years of a chemistry experiment. But I'll give you some statistics from 1900, and then we're going to move on to the next myth that we cherish that he's talking about with our pet food. So this is what our health, the health of our nation looked like in 1900. Cancer is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, responsible for only 3% of all deaths. By the end of the 20th century, cancer will be the cause of 20% of all deaths in the United States. Diabetes affects less than 0.1% of the U.S. population. By the end of the 20th century, almost 20% of U.S. citizens will contract type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Asthma and related immune system diseases are virtually non-existent, but by the end of the 20th century, at least 150 million people worldwide will be afflicted. Breast cancer in women is very rare. By 1960, breast cancer will affect 1 in 20 women, and by 2005, 1 in 3 women will develop breast cancer. So that's what the health of our nation looked like in 1900 and what it looks like in the 21st century for us. Now, mind you, this book was written in 2006, the one that I read all those years ago in 2006. So I'm sure that some of those statistics have been redone for the last 10 years. But that's what it looked like in 1900 before the chemical experiment that is being placed upon us started. The cancer one just blows my mind. And then the other statistic that I found that just absolutely caught my eye when we were going over it, in 1921, this is what he says. Prior to this date, 1921, a total of 20 reports of endometriosis in women has been reported worldwide. By the late 1990s, nearly 20% of all women of childbearing age in the United States are afflicted with endometriosis. That one is just a staggering fact to me. And we've talked about, some of the chemicals that they're putting in our personal care products and our food are, sorry, my girls just walked in. No, ma'am, you may not. Those are not toys. Bring it back. I will show you when I am done. Shut my door, please. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so shut the door. Many of the chemicals that they're putting in our food and in our personal care products are hormone disruptors. And so that's one of the things that I try to avoid for all of my family, for myself, my daughters who were just in here bringing the mail to me, and for my boys and for my husband. Hormone disruptors are bad for everybody because we all have hormones. Whether you're male or female, you have hormones. And if those hormones are not working appropriately, then other bad things can happen. So hormone disruptors are so bad for us. But if we know what we're looking for, we can also avoid them, and we can support health and wellness in other ways. So we are on the chapter where he's talking about Wizards of Oz, the food industry. And today, the myth we cherish is that pet food is harmless. So like I was just reading about that class action lawsuit against Blue Buffalo. Let's see what Mr. Fitzgerald had to say about dog food in his book in 2006. So, after 40 years treating health problems in pets, Richard Pitcairn has reached a conclusion that should sober every human with a pet in their lives. Since I graduated from veterinary school in 1965, I've noticed a general deterioration in pet health. We now see very young animals with diseases that we used to see only in older animals. It is clear to me that an accumulation of poor health is being passed on from generation to generation, and this accumulation increases with each step. Without the perspective of several decades, veterinarians just coming out of veterinary school think these degenerative conditions in younger animals are normal. They do not realize what has happened over the passage of time. I believe that, along with poor quality nutrients, the chemical additives in pet food play a major part in that decline. Many of us have pet companions, particularly dogs and cats, have either seen firsthand or heard stories from other pet owners about how the animals contract illnesses, allergies, behavioral abnormalities, or diseases when consuming some commercial pet foods, only to miraculously recover once these processed foods are taken out of their diet. Given how pet foods are produced, we shouldn't be surprised. 4 of the 5 largest U.S. pet food companies are subsidiaries of major multinational corporations that also produce processed foods for humans. That's interesting. American pet owners spend an estimated $11 billion annually on animal foods made in part or whole from the scraps, rejects, and wastes, known as 4D meat, collected and set aside by plants producing human food. This 4D category stands for dead, diseased, dying, or disabled. When these meats are rendered at rendering plants, they are often mixed with restaurant and supermarket refuse, euthanized animals from animal shelters, sawdust, cooking grease, and even roadkill to create a concoction that is then laced with colorings, preservatives, fat stabilizers, and other chemical additives. The finished product is sold as dry food or more often as semi-moist canned food. Strangely enough, it also shows up as raw material for the cosmetics industry. Oh, that is so gross. It's been a while since I've read this chapter, so that just kind of grossed me out. Sorry. Okay, so he says semi-moist food should be placed in a time capsule to serve as a record of modern technology gone mad, warns Alfred J. Peckner in his book Pet Allergies, Remedies for an Epidemic. The preservatives in these foods, such as ethoxyquin, give them, quote, a shelf life that spans eternity, unquote, and they bioaccumulate inside animals. Ethoxyquin has been detected in dogs' livers and tissues months after being removed from their diet and has been linked to cancer. After rendering, the raw materials often receive other fat stabilizer chemicals, BHA and BHT being the most common, to prevent rancidity. Both of these chemicals have been outlawed by many European countries because they are known to cause liver, brain, reproductive, and kidney problems. There is also evidence that the rendering process fails to remove sodium pentobarbital, the drug used to euthanize many animals that became pet food, and fails to destroy the hormones and antibiotics used to fatten livestock that is later rendered. Other additives in moist food for pets have been identified by veterinarians as the source of additional health concerns. These additives include propylene glycol, which is used for texture and moisture, potassium sorbate added as a preservative, propyl gallate intended to retard spoilage, and sodium nitrite used as a preservative and coloring agent. Several dyes added to pet food, such as red number 40 and blue number 2, make the food more visually appealing only to humans, since dogs and cats, not able to see colors the same way humans do, don't seem to care about the coloration of their food, which I never really thought about. Both of these colorings are also used in soft drinks and candies for humans, and each has been red flagged by the Center for Science and the Public Interest as a possible danger to health. As happens with human food, pet food processors use the term quote-unquote artificial flavorings as a convenient doorway through which to add unlabeled synthetic chemicals that have been called safe, though they have undergone little or no testing. Even when safety studies are done on additives and preservatives, only the direct toxicity is tested and not potential synergistic effects. Anecdotal evidence continues to mount that synthetic chemical additives in foods affect both humans and their pets in similar ways. A California woman was quoted in a 2004 issue of Alternative Medicine magazine making this comparison. I have 2 children with disabilities. One has ADHD and the other suffers from depression. I took them to many doctors and not a single one ever asked me anything about what they eat. But when I took my dog to the vet to ask about his hyperactivity, the first question the vet asked was, "What diet do you have him on?" It turns out something in his food was exasperating his condition, and as soon as I switched him to a different formula, he greatly improved. Eventually, I did a lot of nutritional interventions with both my kids, and they did much better as well, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, nutrition is so important. So that's the grody information about what they're putting in our dog's food. So that myth was just, pet food is harmless, was just demolished. That's kind of gross. I do try to find good food for my dogs, but oh my goodness. And I know when my mom's dogs got, some illnesses, her vet had her making her dog's food with brown rice and chicken broth and some vegetables. And so that might be the best way to go so that we know exactly what our dogs are eating. So those fur babies in our homes don't get sick just from what we're feeding them. Okay, so then myths we cherish. The next one is NASA has perfected synthetic food. A NASA classroom instructional guide for school children in 2001 posed these questions to teachers. Can anything make kids covet fresh broccoli or yearn for lettuce straight from the garden? The pamphlet answers with yes. Just have your kids sample, quote unquote, the taste of dried reconstituted vegetables, like those served to astronauts, then compare them to fresh vegetables. Your students will gain a new perspective on the joy of greens. After more than 4 decades of food experimentation and experience with sending humans into space, NASA still finds the task of trying to feed its astronauts a nutritious and palatable meal using synthetic ingredients to be an out-of-this-world challenge. While its food scientists may continue experimenting with new, exotic chemical formulas in attempts to mimic food nutrients for extended space flights, most NASA scientists have apparently resigned themselves to a nature is better approach. Reducing weight and limiting the volume of materials stored in cabin space are priorities for every space mission. Those reasons alone would seem to make synthetic chemical foods more practical than heavier and bulkier natural foods, but NASA has instead opted for a strategy that will rely on growing natural crops in space to support astronauts' survival and health. In the early days of the space program, astronauts ate synthetic and dehydrated foods from squeeze tubes. Ignorance about the nutritional needs of the human body reflected a desire to believe processed foods would be the future. A report during the late 1960s, prepared by a scientist for the NASA Ames Research Center, for example, made this unsubstantiated claim about synthesizing food from pure chemicals. It makes no difference to the body whether these substances come from a food of natural origin or are synthesized. That's one of your rocket scientists for you right there. All right, that was me, not him. So we'll go on. The sort of Frankenfood attitude about synthetic chemicals and the relationship of nutrition to health was largely abandoned by NASA when, as another food study later reported, it quickly became apparent that these engineered foods were unacceptable in terms of odor, flavor, color, and texture. Synthetics failed to provide proper nutrition in comparison to salads and vegetables, which are considered the best possible sources for nutrients in space. For trips to Mars and beyond, a leading candidate to become a bioregenerative life support crop is quinoa, a weed-like food from the high Andes of South America because of its high nutritional and mineral value. It also has the ability to remove carbon dioxide from the cabin atmosphere while generating food and water. Other high-nutrient crop candidates being considered for space harvesting include wheat, soybeans, lettuce, and white potatoes. Farming in space with as natural a group of ingredients as possible seems to be the future, or Maybe we should say it's Back to the Future. Awesome. Okay, and side note here, I had never heard of quinoa until I read this book and Jordan Rubin's Maker's Diet. So I had no idea what quinoa is, but now I absolutely love quinoa. It's one of the things that we use in our home now. So what NASA has learned through trial and error under the most severe conditions, the food processing industry chooses to ignore in its pursuit of convenience and profits from laboratory chemicals. As an illustration of NASA's wisdom in de-emphasizing spaceflight chemicals, a former senior science advisor to the American Institute for Cancer Research, T. Colin Campbell, drew this direct connection between the purity of the food we eat and our long-term prospects for health. Quote, "The vast majority of all cancers, cardiovascular diseases, and other forms of degenerative illness can be prevented simply by adopting a plant-based diet," unquote. As we will explore in the next chapter, disease industries have sprung up in response to health ravages of synthetic chemical foods. But what they offer as remedies for symptoms simply become additional toxic body burdens for us to bear. So we will talk about that tomorrow. But toxic threats in our food, he talks about PBBDs, which are flame retardants. So the PBDEs in the U.S. food supply are up to 100 times higher than in any other country in the world because the U.S. use of toxin in carpeting, electronics, and furniture. Methyl bromide is a gas pesticide still used on tomatoes, strawberries, and other crops in the United States, despite the U.S. government's having signed an international treaty banning most use of the fumigant by 2005. Until 2002, plastics used to package foods were called indirect food additives by the FDA because it is generally understood that plastics leach chemicals into food, water, and the human body. But in that year, in 2002, the FDA changed the terminology to food contact substances so the public would not be unduly alarmed by the migration of plastics into food and water, especially BPA found in plastic water bottles. Lots of information out there on BPAs now. Lots of people going to BPA-free plastics. Let's see, of 9,282 people nationwide tested by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 93% were found to have the insecticide TCP in their bodies, and 99% carried a breakdown product of DDT. More than half of the test subjects had a dozen or more pesticides on average in their blood and urine. Much of this body burden had been absorbed through the foods they consumed. A variety of consumer products used with tap water, such as some toothpaste, dishwashing liquids, and antimicrobial soaps, contain triclosan, a chemical that reacts with chlorinated water to produce chloroform gas, which is absorbed through a person's skin or inhaled. Chloroform can cause depression, liver problems, and cancer, and that's from the Virginia Tech University research, April 2005. Just a side note on triclosan. Triclosan has been proven now. It's been known for quite a while, but it has been proven to cause cancer, and it is supposed to have been taken off of the market as of October of 2017. I don't know if the government has made sure that that has happened or not. The companies that were using triclosan were given 2 years after the government agency said you have to remove this from your products. They were given 2 years to do that, and the 2-year mark was October of 2017. I don't know. I need to look up and see if there were any waivers or any extensions given on that. But some of the products on the shelf that you're still buying today will still have triclosan in them because they were probably produced up until that time. But you will find triclosan in antibacterial soaps. You will find it in hand sanitizers. You will find it in deodorants, antiperspirants, lotions. Anything that says antibacterial will most likely have triclosan in it. So in our household, we have chosen to avoid triclosan products. So we don't use those products. So I would just read your labels until it is 100% sure that the government has followed up on that ban of triclosan. Because I had totally forgot after reading this that that when it reacts with chlorine, it turns into chloroform gas. That's kind of interesting. So you should think about that when you're buying stuff. All right, I'm just looking real quick through some more notes that I had. Okay, so our nation's wastewater treatment plants are simply too unsophisticated to remove synthetic chemicals before water is recycled back into the environment. Nor can our municipal water treatment plants, despite the use of chlorine, neutralize all these synthetic chemicals before we drink the tap water or bathe ourselves in it. Not only that, but most of the nation's soft drinks and beers are made with municipal tap water, which means we are slowly and cumulatively drugging ourselves in multiple ways. Through our tap water. So I myself choose to use filtered water at our home. Even though we have a private well, we still have a reverse osmosis system on our home to get anything else that might still be in there out, hopefully. There are other water filtration systems on the market. I know several friends of mine love their Berkey water filters. I need to look into getting one, but I think those are above counter and my RO is below counter, and so I really don't have any counter space to spare. But I do have, even though we have a private well, I do have a reverse osmosis on our home, just because of the reason that our water is contaminated sometimes at the source or just through wherever it's going, especially if you live in a rural area. Or, well, whether it's rural and there's spraying fields all around you, so then that's leaching into the groundwater. Or if you're in a municipal and you have all of the pollutants that are in the air and the stuff that's going through the water treatment plants. So, we have made many changes in our home. Those are some simple changes. You can also, like they were talking about the pesticides being sprayed on tomatoes and strawberries and other plant crops. You can also go and Google the Dirty Dozen fruits and vegetables, and it'll tell you which plant crops or food crops are sprayed the most because of the yield and all of that stuff. And those are the ones that I choose particularly to only buy organic off of the Dirty Dozen list. I try to get most of my food organic. It's not a 100% assurance that you're not going to be getting some of the pesticides and herbicides, but I'm praying that at least it's a little bit better than what I would be getting if I was buying conventional produce and vegetables and fruits. Produce and vegetables and fruits and all of that. So, yeah. I mean, we can do our best, right? We have to do our best. The best thing would be to start your own garden, which I do not have a green thumb. So if you have a green thumb, then that would be the best way to go, because then you know exactly what's going on your food. If you live in an urban area, farmers markets are popping up everywhere. The only thing that I would suggest is if you're going to buy fruits and vegetables from somebody at a farmer's market, I would still ask them what they use on their garden. Because just because they're at a farmer's market doesn't mean that they're growing their produce or fruit without herbicides and pesticides. And you want to avoid those. Because I know I was at a farmer's market and I was going to buy some zucchini or squash one day. And so I was asking the farmer, how he grows. And I was like, well, do you use anything on your on your garden? Do you use anything? And he's like, oh, well, sometimes we have to use 7 dust for the squash bugs. And I'm like, oh, okay. I try to avoid 7 dust on the food that I eat. So I thanked him for his time, and I looked and looked for another gardener that didn't use pesticides on his product, because those are the ones that we try to avoid in our home. Not just for their, so there's side effects, but hormone disruptors, like I was saying, hormone disruptors, what are they doing to our bodies, and all of that stuff. So anyway, one of the other things that I was introduced, and this is what I share about most, I do share about the information about getting your toxins out of your home, but I was introduced to the Young Living essential oils by a wonderful friend of mine after I had done several years of research. I had never heard of essential oils before, so I started doing research on that and the products that Young Living has available that are 100% natural and plant-based. So that's what I use in my home now, because I am a Young Living independent distributor, and I teach others how to get the chemicals out of their homes and support health and wellness through all natural products that are completely 100% pure and plant-based, and no harm will be done to you or your family. It's just about supporting health and wellness. So I love to share about Young Living and our products, because I have switched out so many of the products in my home, from what we clean with, what we put on our bodies, our shampoo, our conditioner, our toothpaste, our mouthwash. All of those products now are 100% plant-based with no chemicals, no toxins, no synthetics. Praise the Lord, no synthetics in them at all. No preservatives, no synthetic preservatives, no synthetic additives, nothing that's harmful to the body. And so that's what I like to teach about. So if you have any questions about health and wellness and how to support that, I have an email. It's healthyjourney2016@gmail.com. healthyjourney2016@gmail.com. You are welcome to email me with questions or what you might want to learn about. I am not a physician or a medical professional, so please don't send me any questions about disease or disease symptoms or disease states. I cannot diagnose, prescribe, or treat, because I am not a health professional. I am a homeschool, stay-at-home mom of 5. So that's what I can share. I can share about supporting health and wellness naturally, and I can help you with homeschool questions, whatever you want to talk about, but that's what I do now. So if you would like to learn how to use Young Living products in your home to support your family's health and to kick the toxins to the curb, then I can help you with that. And I also have free gifts of reference material, and we have ways to train you and keep you informed and teach you and just learn along with you on your journey as we're continuing down our journey. But if you would like some more information on Young Living, you can go to youngliving.com. If you're like, I am ready today to kick these chemicals out of my house, and you just tell me how, NeAnne, because I'm going to do it right this second, which I would love. I would love to have you on our team walking along with us. But if that's you today, then you can just go to youngliving.com. You click on Become a Member, and then it's going to ask you who introduced you to Young Living, And my member number is 1416900. You put my member number in the sponsor and enroller spots. So my member number again is 1416900. You put that in those spots, and then you get to choose how you want to get started with Young Living, because we have premium starter kits. They're the only thing on the Young Living website that is half off, but we have essential oil premium starter kits where you can start supporting the health and wellness of your family right away with 11 different bottles of our amazing essential oils. And you get a diffuser, so you can kick all of those candles and sprays and plug-ins out of your house immediately. You can plug in your diffuser, put your oils in, and your house will smell amazing. So you can do that, or you can say, I want to get as many chemicals out of my house as I can in one fell swoop. Then you would choose the Thieves Premium Starter Kit. You can replace all of the cleaners in your house with one cleaner. It's a concentrate. One bottle of our cleaner will make up to 20 spray bottles because it's concentrated, and you just mix it with water. Then you don't have to worry about getting chemicals in or on your body or inhaling them. You can just use our oil-infused, plant-based formula. But you can also replace your toothpaste, your mouthwash, your foaming hand soap, your hand sanitizer, and we also have some Thieves sprays in there that you can use to spray stuff down to clean it before you use it at a restaurant or wherever you are in public. At the Walmart, if you need to spray down your buggy, you can do that and it'll clean it off for you. And then you get a bottle of Thieves essential oil blend, which is amazing and so supportive in so many different ways. But you can look up the different oils in that. And then you choose your starter kit again, which is half off, half price, which is an amazing deal. But that gets you started with your lifelong membership to Young Living. And then after that, you just log on into your account whenever you want, and you order what you need for your family, and they ship it directly to you. So you have your own Young Living store. You log on, you shop, they ship it to you. So then you just have to fill out your information to set up your account, and then set up your payment information. And then in like 7 to 10 days, depending on the weekends, you can be on the road to chemical-free living, getting the yuck out of your home, and only using good stuff for your family. And then I'm here to help you on that journey with information, resources, questions, all of that kind of stuff. So I pray that you jump on the wagon today or sometime soon and just start turning your home into a chemical-free haven for your family, because it's never too soon to start. It's never too soon. Remember that. And now, I don't know, it might be too late eventually if you wait too long, but it can never be too soon. So jump on there and join that, and then we'll get you started on a healthy journey of your own. And then you will have stories to tell people that you come in contact with to bless them and help them get the yuck out of their homes and out of their lives and off of their bodies to a better way of living. And we can stop this science experiment that was started on us over 100 years ago and move back to a more natural, healthy nation. So that's what I pray for our nation. But anyway, so I just want to say thank you for joining me today. If you have questions, you can email me at healthyjourney2016@gmail.com, and we can visit about what you're most interested in or what the needs are of your family that you find most important today. So have a wonderful evening. I pray wherever you are, whether you're on your drive home or you're getting ready to sit down and eat with your family, or you're just getting off work or to work or wherever you are. I pray that you are having a blessed day or evening with your family or your coworkers or wherever you might be. Safe travels if you're on the road. And we will be back here tomorrow at 4, and we're going to start talking about the food industry, I think. Let's see. Oh, the drug and medical industries. Yucky, yuck. So anyway, so we'll be talking more about that, and then we'll be talking more health and wellness. How can I support health? Because you can support your health. It's easy, it's affordable, and it can be done. So I will see you tomorrow about 4-ish. Have a wonderful evening.